Hi guys, it's Francis with a quick news update. So Friday, unfortunately, the cases of COVID-19 in South Africa surpassed the 1,000 mark, sitting at 1,170. South Africa also recording the first death. Now, there was some confusion. Initially, the health department said that 2 women had died, one a 48-year-old, another a 28-year-old in the Western Cape. Then government backtracked and said only 1 death because one was suspected. It turns out that the 28-year-old seemed to have COVID-19, but then her and her family were tested, and that was not the case. So 1 death so far. The first day of lockdown went well in some suburbs. It's like a ghost town where we are, but not in other areas. We know parts of South Africa are simply not conducive to social distancing. And then it was the 26th, so the day after payday for many people, and there were huge lines at some shopping malls such as Dobsonville. And maybe if there was control inside, the problem was outside. People squished together in queues trying to get into the stores. That was even the case in a lot of places everywhere the day before as people rushed to go and get alcohol. Now, ministers held a briefing and they said that they had to stop those queues, thinking of sensible ways to do it. I didn't hear a full solution yet, but the Economic Development Minister, Ibrahim Patel, spoke about one store that used trolleys in the line. So everyone would get a trolley, and that creates a little bit of space or distance between people. On Saturday, there was concern about people who rushed out of provinces because, as you know, movement across provincial borders has now been stopped completely. Limpopo police arrested a man who was tested in Gauteng. Instead of quarantining, he went to Limpopo, interacted with a whole lot of people. His test results came out positive and they struggled to find him. Then they found him in Limpopo and he has now been arrested and taken into isolation. So those are some of the problems with our lockdown as government tries to flatten the curve or the rate at which people get ill. And I was pretty alarmed. I spoke to the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, and they were talking about projections of hundreds of thousands who could get ill by April even. So government is doing all it can because this virus is trying to take on a life of its own and can spread so far and wide. So really, let's just keep praying that the lockdown works. Globally, the World Health Organization updated 500,000 infections, more than 500,000 now around the world, more than 20,000 deaths. This week, the United States overtook Italy and China as the country with the highest number of infections, and more than 82,000. Italy still has the highest death toll. There's a glimmer of hope from China where it all began, because China has managed seemingly to break the spread of this virus, only a few dozen cases being reported every day. So that's after huge lockdowns that are only being lifted now in China. The economic toll, that's still to be counted really, but there are some signs of how desperate it is. More than 3 million new American citizens filed for unemployment, and those figures came out this week and really shook the markets and shook the world. Central banks are stepping in and doing very weird and unusual and desperate things to try and control this, including the Reserve Bank. We won't go into the details, but something like quantitative easing going on. And unfortunately, nothing was able to stop Moody's, the credit rating agency, from downgrading us into junk. That happened at midnight on Friday, basically. It has huge consequences, but right now it doesn't seem all that huge given everything else that's going on at the moment. All right, guys, stay safe. And that's it from me. Ciao.